Brandis, there's a lot going on this week on Capitol Hill, including negotiations on President Joe Biden's sweeping American Jobs Plan and American Families Plan, among other big-ticket bills. And joining us now to talk about the various negotiations are Congressman Brad Schneider, a Democrat from Deerfield, Congressman Mike Quigley, a Democrat from Chicago's North Side, and Congresswoman Jan Schakowsky, a Democrat from Evanston. We should note that we invited every Republican member of the Illinois Congressional delegation and some from surrounding states. None accepted our invitation, but we do thank you all for being back here with us. I want to start with the rapidly escalating situation in the Middle East right now. There are reported dozens dead in Israel and Palestine, attacks in Gaza, rocket attacks that have hit reportedly near Tel Aviv. Congresswoman Schakowsky, what do we know about the latest with this situation?
Well, I know that there have been some calls to see if the Biden administration can help to de-escalate the violence right now. This back and forth has been continuing now for a couple of days. With the latest I saw were 28 Palestinians and 3 Israelis that have been killed. It's probably more than that by now. We need to see that de-escalation. Earlier in the week, I was saying that the evictions that Israel had talked about in East Jerusalem, that was a bad thing. And now we're on a whole different plane of
So these are Palestinians in East Jerusalem being evicted as Israeli settlers come in, correct?
That's correct. That's correct. But now what we have to deal with is this ongoing violence, and anything that the United States can do to de-escalate that. This is horrifying, what is happening now. People are running for their lives I know in Israel, and I know that's happening in Gaza as well. But Hamas has been lobbying over 400 missiles, and Israel has been retaliating with back toward them.
And
so
Congressman,
we have to stop it.
Congressman Schneider, what can the U.S. do to de-escalate the situation? Should President Biden call for a ceasefire?
Well, I think it's important first to understand that what's happening in Jerusalem in Sheikh Jarrah is a real estate dispute. The Israeli Supreme Court has put a halt to that. The source of the conflict with Hamas. Hamas has fired hundreds of rockets into Israel, targeting first Jerusalem and then Tel Aviv. Tel Aviv now with 40 to 50 rockets. 2 women were killed in Ashkelon. More than 200 rockets, probably at this point it's doubled that. And Hamas is trying to push Israel to the edge. It's using civilians within Gaza as human shields. And this really rests on the shoulders of Hamas. The best thing that the United States can do is stand with Israel, defend Israel's right to protect herself, but to work with Israel and with our allies in the region to bring pressure on Hamas to stop the rockets and end this current exchange of rocket fire.
Congressman Quigley, are you in agreement there that the U.S. should stand with Israel and that would be the best way to sort of de-escalate the situation at this point?
Well, I think I agree that obviously Israel has a right to defend itself, and I condemn the rocket attacks. But we also have concerns about the situation in Jerusalem and want both parties to work those issues out.
All right, let's move on to another pressing issue here, cybersecurity. Congressman Quigley, you sit on the Intelligence Committee. A major ransomware attack on the Colonial pipeline in the East Coast. It's disrupted gas supplies all up and down the East Coast. What do we know about that situation at this point?
Yeah, we got our first briefing on this as we're back in Washington this week, and I expect we'll be continually briefed as time goes on. What the FBI director has said is important to note. This was a non-state actor out of Russia. Not the first of these attacks. There's been thousands, but it's obviously the first major attack on our critical infrastructure along lines of oil. I think the concern here is operating out of Russia, where they encouraged or protected by the Russian government, and then they need to be held accountable. But there's so many more layers here. I think our country needs to come to terms with the realization of these major hacks on a recent basis. And we need to do so much more. I think what will be seen soon is the possibility of an executive order involving minimum standards of protection on the public and private sector, as well as a vast increase in resources, including software, equipment, and training, and specialized workforce to address this issue.
So more mandated protection from some of these cyber hacks. And here's what the acting director of the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency told the Homeland Security Committee today about hackings like the one that we just talked about.
Cyber attacks on our nation's infrastructure are growing more sophisticated, frequent, and aggressive. Malicious cyber actors today are dedicating time and resources towards researching, stealing, and exploiting vulnerabilities.
Congresswoman Schakowsky, what does Congress and the President have to do to protect the nation's critical infrastructure? There's a lot of it in the Chicago area, as you well know, gas pipelines, water infrastructure, and the like. What needs to be done?
Well, actually, it's absolutely certain that we have to pay more attention, that we have to get all the more sophisticated as the attackers do to prevent that. And, you know, we're seeing the kinds of real damage. I mean, we're looking at gas prices that are likely to go up. So all Americans are going to feel that. And we have to really double down on making sure that all of the agencies that deal with security do more right now.
All right, let's talk about other things that the President hopes that all Americans feel, and that is new investments in infrastructure and in things like child care. Congressman Schneider, you sit on the Bipartisan Problem Solvers Caucus in Congress. Are you hearing any notes of agreement on either the infrastructure bill or the American Families Plan that has added child care funding in there?
Well, I think, you know, I'm proud to be part of the problem solvers. It's 29 Democrats, 29 Republicans working together. And I think there's broad agreement on infrastructure. We actually put out a white paper a few weeks ago that we need to invest in our infrastructure. We haven't made the necessary investment for more than a decade, probably 2 decades. And the threat, the attack on the pipeline is a perfect example. We need to build resiliency, both from a cybersecurity standpoint as well as resiliency from a climate standpoint. It's going to take partnership with the federal government and the private sector. And so I think there's support, but we need a big, bold investment. I think the American Jobs Plan, the infrastructure aspects of that are that down payment to our future.
And Congressman Quigley, to partially pay for at least the American Families Plan, the President has called for hiking the income tax rate on those earning $400,000 or more and on corporations. Not a huge overall hike, but something that it seems like most, if not all, Republicans will oppose. Is that going to be the thing that sort of breaks down any hopes of bipartisanship?
Well, your point's a good one because it's always held up an infrastructure package. That is, how is it paid for? In my point of view, I'm willing to be flexible. I saw Mitch McConnell said, let's pay for it with the gas tax. The fact of the matter is vehicle miles driven are way down. With the advent of electrical vehicles, that's not going to change anytime soon. So it could only be partial payment. In the final analysis, we have to find a way to pay for it because our infrastructure is getting failing grades and we're being outspent by our economic competitors, China, India, Europe, 3-to-1, 4-to-1, 5-to-1. So I think there's a way to compromise and get this done, but we have to come off the realization that we can just do this without spending any money at all.
Especially since deficit spending has been the norm for many, many, many years in Washington. Congresswoman Schakowsky, a worse than expected jobs report came out last week. President Biden says he doesn't see anything to this notion that perhaps people are lured to stay on unemployment because the benefits are more generous now, as opposed to get back into the workplace, especially in the service industry. Is that what you're seeing?
No, absolutely not. I think, you know, we call this a recession that we've been going through, and I call it, along with the Women's Caucus, a C session or recession, because it's women. If you saw those jobs numbers, all of the jobs that were increased were really, most of them were from men, and women have lost 2 million women in the workplace. And that's why these issues of the child tax credit, of the child care being provided is so important if we're going to move those jobs numbers and if we're going to move the economy. That's where we need to be. But I do not believe that people are staying home because they think it's a good deal. No, One, I think they want to be sure that they have good jobs with good pay. That's true. But I think mainly it's because people can't go back to work right now, particularly women.
All right, and those job numbers definitely about 2 million women, 1.5 million men's jobs lost. And we're going to pick up this discussion in just a bit. We'll leave it here for now, but we will be joined again by the lawmakers later in the program to discuss policing legislation, among other things. And our thanks to Representatives Schneider, Quigley, and Schakowsky.